Do do. Hello and welcome to Electronic Illustration, you guys. We have got 16 weeks ahead of us to whip y'all into shape when it comes to becoming electronic illustrators. This is a cool class, and the class has been modified. We're going to have 5 projects within here. And from the start, while I've got your attention, couple things. The most important thing is this is electronic illustration. So we're going to learn a lot about illustration over this semester. And to me, illustration, what differentiates it from painting or character studies is that you are ultimately trying to tell a story within this picture that's on the screen. So whenever you look at this, whenever you look at an illustration compared to a painting within an art gallery, the illustration is going to tell you a lot about who that person is, where they've been. You're using the environment to invoke a feeling about it, who it is that we're actually seeing. So this one in particular happens to be an intergalactic rock star, and here he is giving his great return tour to all across the galaxy. And it's a good example of an illustration. We're going to look at a lot of illustrations within this course. I understand that some of you guys, this is one of those classes where we've got people at all different skill levels. Some of you guys barely made it through the electronic applications class. Some of you guys have been working within digital drawing for years now, and so the projects can really vary a lot. But I hope that this is a course that you're going to feel like you can get something out of. So it's always my goal whenever I assign projects to students that you guys are doing things that I would want to do and building towards projects that are going to help you make a great portfolio, as well as projects that are going to help you get work in the future. That's really, really important to me. And yeah, some other important things when it comes to this class from the jump. We're going to have 5 projects within this course. Need to change module 7 to module 5. But anywho, so within those 5 projects, this entire semester is based on 3-week cycles. So at the end of each 3-week cycle, you will have a project due. In between those 3-week cycles, when the projects come due, every Friday, you're going to have a turn in and a submission that needs to take place. So you've got discussion posts that you definitely want to be keeping an eye on throughout this semester. These discussion posts are big, all right? It's an online class. I understand that the real world can take precedent sometimes in your real world classes, and you guys get busy. So these discussion posts are open for the entire week until Friday at midnight. So don't forget to get your discussion post and your final turn-ins in by Friday at midnight. There's going to be no second options, no turn it in later. After that, you've got to have that stuff in because it's keeping us all on the same page and giving other students time to be able to give you feedback. In fact, don't wait until Friday. Try and get your discussion post finished by Thursday evening so people have got the day on Friday, if not sooner, to be able to respond to you. These discussion posts are weighted equally to the final project. So this is a good and bad thing. That means you've got 3 opportunities, or the total grade for each one of these 5 projects is broken down into 3 different parts. So discussion post 1 on Friday, very easy, very straightforward, showing progress. That's 1/3 of your grade on the first project right there. So just stay on top of these discussion posts. Remember, Friday by midnight is the absolute cutoff date. And if you start to fall behind on those, then your overall grade is really going to start to suffer within this class. However, the upside to this, the good news, is that each one of these projects, when you turn them in, since we're all learning and we're all trying to get better, are also only 1/3 of the total grade. So work with that wisdom as ye may. The way that tonight's going to go and this session, I want to go ahead and give you guys some overview on how the projects are structured, what to look for within the projects, how the discussion posts are going to work, and run you through some of those. And then we're going to pause and we're going to come back for a second look at what makes good illustrations, what makes illustrations actually cook and work, and talk about some of the rules of composition and principles of design that you're going to be looking to develop over the course of this semester, hopefully sooner than later, so that you can be making great illustrations. And then finally, we're going to pause again, and then I'm going to give you guys a crash course and demo within Photoshop as we start to set up the first project. All right. So here we are on the D2L within the browser. And inside of the browser, you can see we've got the electronic illustration. We can see the various modules and course content here. Within each one of these classes, I'm going to be recording these sessions and these demos for you guys. And then you're going to find that this announcement section within this run of electronic illustration really stays busy. So there's going to be a lot more announcements that start to show up. This is where we're going to meet every single session. So save the link to this meeting place online so that you can just jump right in here as the announcements start to jump up and become a little bit larger. Uh-oh. So there we go. We've already got a course introduction, but the course has changed a little bit. Project 1 demo. I think let's see what's here. That's module 7. Module 1. There we go. These guys. So down here at the bottom of each one of these modules, when they're open, there's some files that are attached. And for this first project, I've included 2 different brush packs that are going to be pretty useful for you guys to have and to be able to work with. And I'd highly recommend that you go through and download and install those brush packs. You are more than welcome to work within any application in as long as it has layers within this course. There's no motion media section to this. However, when we get to project 4, we're going to switch over and we're going to be working within Adobe Illustrator for that project. So on project 4, it needs to be some type of vector-based design program that also has layers, aka Adobe Illustrator. And Adobe Illustrator is a wild, fickle program. It always seems to feel to me 2 steps removed from traditional painting and drawing, and I don't like it as much. But we're gonna get through there, and I'm gonna show you guys some of my practices coming from an illustration, painting, and animation background that make Illustrator a cinch and how I like to use it effectively. You know, that Illustrator is one of those programs where you can go online and if you start searching on TikTok or Reels or wherever, there are so many designers out there that get millions of views for showing this one little button or this one little thing that you can do inside of Illustrator that just absolutely blows your mind. That, you know, you save the video and you're like, oh, I'm gonna use that later. Use it one time for like 5 years, and you know what is the brass tacks working methodology that you need inside of Adobe Illustrator. All right, so each one of these projects, project 1. What we're going to be doing is taking an old sketch and moving it into a digital illustration. Within each one of these modules, they're broken up the same way. So you're going to see that it tells you how to begin thinking about the assignment. It's going to tell you what to do on the first day of class. I hope that you guys brought 3 sketches in here. You need to go ahead and drop those and post those into the discussion post 1. So if you're sitting here watching this screen and not reading along on your computer, dropping your 3 old sketches into the very first discussion post within this class is a great thing for you to do right now. All right. So then it goes through and tells you about what those first steps look like. This first module goes through and gives you a brief overview and some best practices within Adobe Photoshop. I'm very interested in teaching people how to be able to work at speed, professional production techniques, and what it is that you really need to know to be able to be a great illustrator within Adobe Photoshop. One of the other big things that I like to teach within all my classes is a creative process for how it is that you're approaching and thinking about your drawings. One of the things that you'll really hear me harp on a lot about is well-developed sketches at the early stage and how important it is to be able to get those first round of sketches completed and really thought through. This means, full character clothing, full, facial expressions, full backgrounds, thinking about all the little details if it's inside of like a Bavarian inn or a barbarian's inn or tavern or something like that, thinking about all the items that are on the table as well and how those things come together to help to tell the greater narrative within this image. All right. So this is, we've also got within this module one, just some quick hotkeys that I tend to use an awful lot within Adobe Photoshop. Especially that Control Shift V paste in place is very important and it'll help you an awful lot. But these are kind of the main hotkeys that I like to use within Adobe. Um, any of these painting programs are tools for you to be able to get your creative idea out there. Because they are tools like a hammer or a chisel or, I don't know, a screwdriver, each artist and each designer is going to have their own approach to how they work within these applications. You can certainly find your own. What I'm going to be teaching you guys this semester is my 20-year sort of methodology that's gotten me through the creative space and given me a pretty successful career within the design world. And so this is what I can give to you guys for best practices that have worked for me along the way. You might hear another artist online recommend setting things up or approaching painting in a different method, but uh, if you stick to what I'm going to be teaching you here within this class, you're going to be a lot better artist when you graduate from college than I was in digital painting and illustration. So within these modules, there's a bunch of information about how to begin thinking about it. The next section within the modules is when do I know that I'm done? How do I know when I've actually completed this assignment? Big old write-up about that, big text wall. And then I go through and talk about what are the key moments within this illustration that you should be looking to highlight. Talk about techniques that you're going to be using within the project, and this is repeated for each one of the modules, how to turn in the work, and then it is listed inside of there what it is you're going to be graded on for each one of these projects. All right. And then within the modules down at the bottom, we've got what the discussion posts actually are. So you can read the discussion post there, or you can just go into the D2L, click on discussions, and you will see all the discussion posts for this course listed out. The discussion posts hopefully have got a lot of useful information to start framing your thoughts around how you want to approach this assignment. The discussion posts, again, are going to be graded, and the grade for the discussion post, there's 2 of them for each assignment, and then the final turn-in. The discussion posts are weighted equally to the final turn-in. So make sure you're not missing those discussion posts, and please have them posted before Friday at midnight. So it lists within the discussion post what it is you're going to be graded on inside of there. And along the way, if you guys have got any questions about these things, please let me know. As I mentioned before, each one of these modules is going to be recorded and then posted on the announcement section of the D2L. The most important thing for me is that you guys are making great artworks and that you're staying up on the assignments. As the semester goes on, you might start to see me in the comments section saying, hey, show me your work before you actually turn it in. And that usually means that you're in a state where I feel like I could give you some advice to be able to make sure that you get it over the line and that you're turning in something that's going to look good within your portfolio and to help coach you just a little bit more. So please take advantage of that if you see that comment in there. If you're emailing me from outside of class, I ask that you don't email me directly from the D2L. So that means you're inside of the class portal in the browser, and then you go to this little mail icon, and then you send me an email through here. Man, I can't respond to those. I can't get back to you. I'm going to have to go into the D2L myself. There's, the Duo login, the verifications, all these steps to be able to get back to you. And it's going to be a lot faster if you guys just email me um, through whatever your email application of choice happens to be. So if that's Outlook, Gmail, wherever, just copy my email address, write it down on a sheet of paper, and just email me through there what it is that you're looking for. Other things when within these discussion posts, you guys, I'm going to ask y'all to please respond to two other students for each one of the discussion posts. This is the reason why you guys need to try and turn these discussion posts in sooner than later. If you're turning your discussion post in at Friday at midnight, you've got the advantage of being able to respond to everyone else, but you are missing out on the opportunity to hear from your peers about what it is that they're working on, and to be able to give them critical feedback as well. They can't get back to you and let you know how it is that you're doing. And that is a big portion of these discussion posts, is responding to other students. You always have to say it, but we've got 16 weeks ahead of us. Please be critical within these responses. Please be respectful, but do not make these responses, white bread basic. We don't want that. We want them to be a little bit more verbose, a little bit more interesting to read than, wow, I really like where you're going. The direction looks great. Keep it up. Good job. I've read thousands of those. That doesn't help anybody. Yes, we need encouragement as artists, but you can say, hey, I really like what it is that you're working on. I think that the character design is very unique here. I'm looking at your sketch though, and it looks like the background hasn't really been that well developed yet. What are you thinking about doing for the background? And perhaps maybe, building out this world and adding a castles are horrible to paint. Don't paint castles. But like faraway castles or like mid-ground castles are not where it's at. Um, but yeah, maybe you could add a forest to the background, or that's a good example of a comment that's encouraging, critical, and still offers suggestions and a path forward as well. Yeah, let me think. So, what else do I need to tell you guys from the get-go here that you can't read in the syllabus? Hmm. Well, I could tell you a little bit about myself. So, my name is William Moritz. Call me Professor Moritz, whatever. I've been working in the creative space for 20 years. It's been a very non-linear journey through the creative world. I've done a lot of different things, from being a creative director for a video game company to working at an animation studio in China for 2 years. I've done UI, UX, web design. I was working on a virtual reality development team as a lead designer for the CDC for the past 4 years. Currently, I'm working with the CDC's communications team that handles all the public messaging and internal messaging for the vaccine safety monitoring systems. And they brought me on to be an art director, creative director. I'm developing a video series for them right now for these four vaccine safety monitoring systems that have never had any public facing material. If you go to their websites now, it is just a white text wall and can be a little bit difficult to get through, especially if you know yourself or a loved one has had an adverse reaction to a vaccine and you're trying to get some information there. It can feel daunting and overwhelming. So what I'm trying to get them to do is to create top level interactions within a video series that give you an understandable and relatable overview without getting too much into the acronyms. HSS, NWPC, drop it, DDO, I don't know, whatever is, they get so caught up in this stuff, and these people inside of these systems have been working in there for 20 years that they really can't see outside of what it is that they're doing. So this was the first document that I sent over to my team. And when I first got into this role, I asked them, I was like, when do you want the first video done? And they're like, oh, we'd like to have 3 videos done by Christmas, and we want them each to be 3 minutes long. And I was like, okay. You guys haven't made videos before. Next question was, do you guys have a script? And they're like, nope, we don't have a script. Do you have key messaging? Nope, we don't have key messaging. We're going to send you in some meetings so that you can develop that. And they dropped me in these little 30-minute meetings where I'd been in the job for like a week. And they're like, all right, here's so and so's department. These people have been all been here for 30 years. This is Will. He's going to make some videos. Take it away, Will. And I don't know who these people are. I don't have any relationship to them. I've had like maybe an hour's worth of research for this stuff that's really heavy and like really intense. And yeah, they dropped me into it and is pretty overwhelming. So all that is to say is one of my favorite parts about the design process that you're going to hear me talk so much about throughout this class is research and development. So getting an idea out there and sort of mind mapping what it is that I'm going to create. In this instance, we'll see down at the bottom of this page that's on the screen a timeline. They did not have a script. They didn't have a look. The only thing that I was told is that they didn't have key messaging. So imagine you're taking on a new client and they're telling you stuff like this, and so you become the detective, and that's kind of what you're going to be for each one of these projects within this course is a detective where you're gathering your evidence and putting together your case and then sharing it out within those discussion posts to if you think of it as you're an art director, you're putting these things together, and then at each one of these discussion post stages, if for some reason you're in a company or a job in a studio and you get sick and you've got to go on leave, that someone else could look at your discussion post, pick up where you were at, and then bring this project to completion. That's sort of what we're looking for here. As artists, we often live in our heads a lot, and no great design exists within a vacuum. You need feedback, and when you're working in a studio space, the collaborative aspects of it are pretty massive. Within this situation that I'm in, I know how redactive and how much red tape there can be with the way that you say things around vaccines within the CDC. Makes perfect sense. And so I'm being very, very cautious with the way that I've approached this video series that I'm developing. I'm going to show you guys where the characters are at for this thing and give you kind of a walkthrough for this particular project. I know it's not electronic illustration, but I think it's going to introduce the idea or at least show you sort of someone who's been in this for 20 years, um, how does they approach a new project and how they collect feedback, create opportunities for feedback, and then in some ways control the narrative as well. Like I'm kind of intentionally fattening up this project so that I know they're going to cut things off of it so that the part that I really want to keep doesn't get removed, right? So if someone's like, paint me a portrait of the Mona Lisa, and but you want to do it in more of a purple tint for whatever reason. And so you paint the entire thing and then you give the Mona Lisa a unicorn horn. Then that person's going to say, everything looks good here, except for that unicorn horn. We should take that off. That I don't remember the Mona Lisa having one of those. And after they do that, then they probably won't notice the purple tint that you've infused throughout the entire project. So as a designer, this type of package that you're about to see here really helps you control the narrative and set the table for how the discussion is going to look in the design world. There's a lot you can do with these types of packages. It's not all just about being able to draw something like we're seeing on the screen, the top photo, which is cool. It's a great looking photo, but it's also about being able to explain your idea and how you got there. So within this document, I didn't know who was going to be looking at it. I didn't know if they were going to take this and throw it back over to those vaccine safety systems, if scientists were going to be looking at it like subject matter experts. So I tried to build this sort of with data that backs up what it is that I'm saying and almost like building a court case for my concept. It's like 60 something pages long because these are spreads, so it's 2 pages. And I really like the spread method for being able to show off presentations. I think it gives more breathing room and is more like a magazine when you're looking through it. So they told me they wanted this video series to be like Schoolhouse Rock. So that's why we've got all these retro fonts that are going on within this thing. And the first thing that I wanted to show them was, what are these videos going to accomplish? Why are we doing this? What's going to be good about them? And then I wanted to explain to them that the government has been using PSAs for quite a long time, right? For about 100 years. And to bring them on board and say, hey, look, we can use branding characters, we can use animation to be able to talk about very serious issues. It does happen and does exist. Next up, talking about science and metaphor to be able to educate the public and giving other real world examples of that. From there, I go on to show two case studies, one of which is Dumb Ways to Die, which is a really successful video series that's gone on to do a lot of other things. And then I give the example of why this actually works. So, this first part of this document, and then Schoolhouse Rock is the second example, and also why it works. Position, heard voices from the public, feedback, gathered feedback, and then we're moving into the second part of the document. So the first part you can think of as looking in the cupboard and discovering what ingredients it is that we have to work with within this video. What are, sort of the pain points? What are the things that make a successful viral video series? What are the things that make an image actually work and cook? The same thing can be applied, figuring out the ingredients to illustration. And how do we approach these illustrations to be able to maximize the narrative and to be able to tell a story within them, as well as using the rules of composition, color, and design to be able to help heighten the experience of the viewer and really move their eyes through the piece so that it is a successful painting that is pleasing to the eye and helps to enhance the narrative that we're trying to get across. Fancy way of saying it. So the second part here is how are we going to deliver? This is after we've introduced the ingredients within this document. Then I go through and I start showing them different recipes that we could actually cook or bake with those ingredients. So when they first came to me about this Schoolhouse Rock stuff, I really thought it'd be fun to try and get them to do a high level messaging to the public about the work that goes into keeping these vaccines safe. And so I came up with two different songs, two different song options. And for each one of these, I'm not a songwriter. It's not my wheelhouse. So I ended up using, I think, Chat GPT or somewhere else to be able to enhance the song lyrics. And then I came back and then I used an AI program to take those song lyrics and turn it into an actual like jingle and in the style that I wanted it to be in. So folk country genre or rock blues song. And then from there, I used Midjourney and then Runway AI to be able to actually animate 30-second little music videos so that sometimes people who are not artists and not creatives, they can't see it in their heads the same way. They don't have the gift that you guys have got to be able to picture what this is actually going to look like or what it could feel like or even what it could sound like as a song when they read this on a paper. So adding that really helped to bring them into the picture of where it is we could go very rapidly, and it totally freaked them out. They were not on board with the song at all. They're like, "What does this have to do with vaccine safety monitoring systems? This what is this stuff?" I lost them. So I'll show you where this thing ended up at next. After that, brand partnerships. Two different examples of successful brand partnerships and why they worked. Snapshots, visualizing data was the third one that I recommended to them, and how to be able to shorten some of this very, very dense stuff that's extremely hard to read into more digestible, quick bites to fit the attention spans and the lack of leisure time that most of us have nowadays. I wish I had more free time. I think you do as well. So down here at the bottom, we've got the production and next steps timeline. And if you have you haven't really worked in video before, if you're thinking about going into animation, if you want to go work for a branding or advertising studio or wherever you find yourself, I would take a screenshot of this production timeline. It is eerily accurate for how these things are actually working out. And for here's how this relates back to the electronic illustration class that we're working on. So right now, you guys are going into phase one, planning and development. You're researching, you're coming up with high level ideas, you're setting your direction, you're establishing what your core goals are going to be for this project. And that's one of the most important foundations is kind of laying the groundwork for how it is that you're going to move forward. Within the animation and film production pipeline, the script is the most important part. Within my career, the most frustration that I've continuously had working in the animation and motion graphics field is the script. When you get 99% of the way done on a project, and then they come back after you've built this house of cards with thousands of layers and hundreds of hours, and they change like core aspects to the script that offset the timing of the entire video, it can be a nightmare. And this is the government that I'm working for. So they've got a lot of levels of bureaucracy to be able to pass this script up through. And I know from working in the VR team that this stuff can change an awful lot. So I wanted to go in here and really make sure that I'm getting them to approve the script at the highest level that it can possibly go to before I start phase three, which is pre-production. So within phase two, you can see that script finalization and approval occurs. Then some of the starting parentheses, air quotes, starting the storyboards and the visual production on the video can begin to be able to help bring people in and assembling an animatic. And this is where I'm slowly creeping to while I'm still waiting for approval because I don't want to go into phase four, right? Everyone always thinks that, painting is or animation is just, the goal. There's actually these three really big steps before you even get to the animation. And then the part that everyone always kind of misses at the end here is phase five, marketing and distribution, not just to drop these projects that you're going to be working on. Um, onto your Instagram for one single post, but instead making sure that they've got legs, that are kind of creating some excitement and some interest around this hard work that you've put into this when you're sharing it out. If you put it up on your website portfolio or on to ArtStation, that you're telling the story and engaging the audience with how it is that you were able to come to this particular conclusion. And yeah. So, anywho, I'm going to show you where things are at with this script now. So they ended up going with a metaphor, and the metaphor that I'm trying to sell them on is comparing these vaccine safety monitoring systems that are very abstract and not very relatable to a weather system. So one of the systems ends up being related to like the on the ground reporter that's like in the middle of a storm. The other one is the news studio where they're collecting the information from all over the place. The third one is like the satellite systems. And then the fourth one is the follow-up reporter kind of hearing the rehash of after the storm stories. And yeah, so they said they wanted it to look like Schoolhouse Rock. We lost the song, but I'm keeping the character design. This is not this is not what my hand naturally does. So I've really had to train my hand to this particular style. I hear some students say, "Oh, that's not my style. I like to work this way." I think that a style is whatever is going to pay you, and that's made me very be able to do a lot of stuff throughout my career. So these are not character designs that I would traditionally be drawn to or drawn to creating, but I've trained my hand up and used a lot of references to be able to get myself to this space. So let me show you an example of a good first sketch. All right. So within the, all right. So here's what my process looks like. Sorry, I'm trying to find the news guy. Yeah, here we go. So the news guy is like the fourth one of these characters that I've created. I've got my root character. And so I've got a sense of what the shape language is going to look like. But that doesn't mean that I don't still need to explore. So this also goes for your illustrations as well. If you've got a character in there, um, getting that character figured out before you go into the final illustration or that first sketch is really, really important. So within this one, I just wanted to push the facial features and structure around. This one is the easiest to be able to understand, but it's sort of the middle of the road, sort of plain Jane, just sort of boring within this style, safe version. The first one that you draw is always going to be safe. Let me show you another illustration page. Yeah. So for the main character, Auntie Vivi, I always have to get my Disney princess character out of the way first, and then I my hands warmed up after that, and then I can actually start exploring all types of different shape language. Um, so same thing happened with the news reporter, and I tried him a second time with a peanut head. That he looks a little grimacing. He looks a little bit scary. Then I tried this one where he looks like just a happy-go-lucky fella, and I discovered the sideburns, and I was like, oh yes, 1970s sideburns, yes, and please. And then finally, the third one is kind of amalgamation between the first one. We've got similar hair, but he's got the sideburns and the eyes are closer together, and that ended up being the working one that I moved forward with. From there, I'm ready to actually sketch out how he's going to look at his news desk. And I'm really, for this particular frame of the animation, I know that I'm going to be transitioning in and out of this big back screen right here, and these screens are going to be animated and changing. So I wanted to leave room for those and not have it cut all the way across his head. So instead, he's just taking out the lower left-hand corner of this screen instead of, it being a giant screen behind him that would be a little bit confusing. So there's a good reason for that. Also, these four other little smaller television monitors gives me the chance to be able to have little inside jokes and fun things that are happening within the story. So after I got my news guy, I needed to figure out what the newsroom was going to look like. So I had a previous image and a sketch, and I needed to start developing how these characters were shape-wise going to work off of one another and how many people I could squeeze into this little shot. So there's the character designs for them, and then once I've got those figured out, then I can go in and actually sketch out my newsroom. Same deal when it comes to a well-developed sketch, right? So I'm practicing the characters before, then I'm composing them within the shot for where it is that they want to live. And all the while, I'm thinking about what I want the background to look like and how can I make this background of this newsroom really tell the story. So it's got a mail chute here that's going to be dropping letters down all the time. Behind those letters, I want to have like some red tape where they're kind of solving the news story and connecting the dots. Lots of sticky notes everywhere, files packed away, letters and pages that are stacking up on top of the desk. And then again, we've got a big monitor screen back here where I can tell lots of different inside jokes. I wanted to have a news ticker up here and then to have like a virus most wanted list on the backboard as well. And this starts to take a very, very boring subject matter, important, but not the most interesting thing in the world, and give it a backstory and give it a place and give it grounding and give it a reason to actually exist. And so then going through and developing out all those characters from the sketches into starting illustrations to where again I can pass these off. There's our news anchor. Pass these off to someone else or an entire animation team, and they can pick this up and they can run with it from there. And so now I'm going to go back and build a design brief for how these scenes are going to look, put together a storyboard animatic, and that's going to be the next stage. And as I continue to do this, oh man, you cross your fingers that uh, there are no major changes, right? So I'm starting to get a little bit deep in here, but with this, um, I've still got, even if they move in a completely different direction for this project, I've got a great portfolio piece that I can share out that's going to help me get more work in the future. And then I also have documented my design process for how it is that we're approaching this and where these videos live. So all of this combined is what has kind of helped me stay within this industry and to be able to build a career out of it. So I'm sort of a one-man band right now, writing the script, coming up with the pre-visualization, setting the stakes, what it is that we're trying to create here, overseeing the production pipeline. And it's my hope that after we get through with this first one, that this becomes a machine that we can replicate. And I hope that throughout this class, you guys start to feel yourselves getting into a repetition and a modality of how it is that you're approaching any type of illustration project that you want to solve. And a big part of that begins with reference images and solid sketches right from the get-go before you get too far into it. All right, that was a lot. We're at 7:16. Let's pause for right now. When we come back in, we're going to talk a little bit more about Project One, and I'm going to uh, go through Photoshop's setup and introduction with you as well. Wow, we've collected a few more people in here. All right.